So there's this really popular video going around that makes a pretty bold claim. It's arguing that all sorts of modern scientific discoveries, we're talking everything from oceanography to neuroscience, were actually described in the Quran more than 1400 years ago. So in this explainer, we're going to break down the key arguments from that video.
The video kicks things off with a real head-scratcher. It asks, how could a text from the 7th century describe something as complex as internal waves? You know, these waves that happen deep under the ocean's surface. That's something science only figured out in the late 1800s. And that's really the core idea we're looking at today, this link between an ancient text and modern science.
So just to be clear, what we're doing here is just walking through the arguments as they're presented in that source video. We're going to look at the exact verses it points to, the scientific connections it tries to make, and just lay out its case, piece by piece.
Okay, so the video really frames its whole argument as a way of building a bridge. A bridge between two worlds that a lot of people see as totally separate, faith and science.
And yeah, they're not exactly shy about their ambitions. This is a direct quote from the video's intro, and it really sets a bold tone, right? It's basically promising to completely reframe how you think about the Quran and how you think about scientific discovery.
So the whole argument from the source video hinges on this one core concept, what it calls scientific miracles. Now, according to them, these are specific verses in the Quran that appeared to describe things in the natural world, but centuries before scientists actually had the tools to discover them.
All right, first up, let's head to the cosmos. The video kicks off its evidence by looking at what it claims are discoveries about the universe and the laws of physics. The video highlights this specific verse, and the key word it really zooms in on is floats. Now, for hundreds of years, you could just read that as, poetic language. But the video connects this ancient word to a surprisingly modern scientific theory. So here's the connection the video makes. It points to a physics theory from as recently as 2014 that suggests space itself might actually behave like a kind of superfluid. And in that model, stars and planets would literally be floating through the cosmos. The video's argument? That this brand new concept is exactly what the ancient text was describing all along. Okay, so from the unimaginable vastness of space, the video then zooms all the way in to the human body. Here, it highlights what it claims are discoveries about our brains and other unique biological markers. This verse is presented as another key piece of evidence. And what the video finds so significant here isn't just the action itself. It's the very specific description of the forelock, the front part of the head, as being lying and sinful. So, why focus on that specific part of the head? Why call the forelock a liar? The video asks this question to set up its next point, drawing a straight line from this ancient description to a very specific area of modern neuroscience. And this is the core of their argument. It turns out that the prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain that handles stuff like planning, telling right from wrong, and, lying, is located directly behind the forehead. So the source argues that the Quran specifically linking this exact spot with lying is no accident. Okay, here's another example the source brings up, this time from human biology. This verse is talking about resurrection, and it makes a really specific point, that it's possible to reassemble a person down to the tiniest detail, even their fingertips. And why mention fingertips? Well, the source argues that this is a direct reference to the uniqueness of our fingerprints. Think about it. That's a cornerstone of modern forensics, right? But the fact that every single person's fingerprints are unique was only scientifically proven in the late 1800s. Next up, the video turns to the natural world around us, pulling out claims that cover everything from some surprising math to the mysteries of the ocean. Okay, now this next one is a purely mathematical argument presented in the video. It says that if you go through the Quran and count every time the Arabic word for land appears, you get 13. Do the same for the word sea, and you get 32. Add them up, and you get a total of 45 mentions. Then, the source video does some simple math. It takes the 13 mentions of land, divides it by the total of 45, and what do you get? A percentage of about 28.9%. The video then points out how incredibly close that is to the actual percentage of land on planet Earth, which is right around 29%. Okay, shifting gears a bit. The video brings up another natural phenomenon. You know that amazing sight where two seas meet but don't seem to mix? It's because of differences in things like density and saltiness. It creates this visible line in the water, a kind of barrier. You can actually see this happen where the Baltic and North Seas come together. And this is the verse the video connects to that exact observation.
It talks about two seas meeting, and it says there's a barrier between them that they don't cross. The video's argument is that this isn't just poetry, it's a direct and accurate description of a real oceanographic phenomenon.
So, we've seen evidence from cosmology, neuroscience, a little bit of math, and oceanography. The source video takes all of these different points and brings them all together for its big final argument. So, what's the big takeaway from all this, according to the source? Well, it argues that all this supposed scientific accuracy is actually proof that the Quran has a divine origin. In this view, modern science isn't some enemy of faith, it's a tool that can be used to validate it. The video says that sharing these so-called miracles is a form of dawah, which is like an invitation to learn more. And the final point is this: these connections, from the stars down to our fingertips, are just way too precise to be a simple coincidence.
And that really brings us to the final question that the source video leaves with its audience. It's the central challenge of the entire video. It basically asks you, the viewer, to weigh all this evidence and decide for yourself. Are all these connections just a series of really amazing coincidences, creative interpretations and finding patterns? Or are they a sign of some kind of knowledge that was embedded in this text, revealed centuries before anyone could have possibly known?